Let's start with your thoughts around Walmart, Massmart. Did it take you by surprise? It certainly took Sid Vionello from Netgroup Securities by surprise. He stated on this show he didn't think it was possible.
Evening, Bronwyn. The Walmart story, oddly enough, was like the HSB story. It had been around for 100 days, and I think we'd given up on it. Were they buying Massmart? Were they buying ShopRite? Maybe even Pick n Pay. So there was something in the background there. But was it a surprise? Short answer, yes. I think the big surprise was 148 Rand, which is a modest 10% premium on the close from Thursday. The argument being, quite frankly, that the Walmart premium, in a sense, has been in the Massmart price and to a degree the ShopRite for some time. But I don't think they're going to get 90% at that price, and they need 90% acceptance to delist the company and force the other shareholders to sell.
But the point that Sid was making a moment ago is that there's not one single large influential shareholder, and that it is made up of a number of smaller shareholders across the institutional spectrum, also in the global sphere. Do you think that they've got enough might to band together and force a higher price on this one?
I think that the diversity, the spread of shareholders actually works on both sides. It's going to be tougher for Walmart because they can't go to one person and talk to a 10 or even maybe a 20 or 25% shareholder, lots of little people. The flip side is it's going to take a lot of concerted effort to get that 10+1 vote to vote against it. And I think on the balance of probability there, that's probably slightly more in Walmart's favor than against it. But I certainly think, a lot of people have got in, it's done incredibly well. This is one of the top performing shares we've had over the last couple of years. In a sense, I think a lot of people might then sit back, particularly institutional guys and particularly the global players who will say, let's take our money off the table here. We've done very well. It's the end of the road. And around the world, let's go find a new stock to move the money into. I think South Africans, perhaps, and they're a minority in the case of Massmart, are going to be a little more hard pressed because there's not that many options. The Pick n Pays and the ShopRites are different beasts in a sense to what Massmart really is.
But wanting more than 148 Rand right now, Simon, don't you think that's tantamount to being greedy? As you said, that the Walmart premium has been in Massmart's share price for some time, and it is still demanding a hefty earnings momentum going forward at 148 Rand.
I agree with you 100%. If we look at it on an earnings multiplier, and we'll even look at, forget the historic, let's look at the forward earnings multiplier, it is a top price. And therefore investors need to accept that it's been in the price. Are investors being greedy? In a sense, that's what investing is about. It's trying to maximize that money. I think the trick is that if it comes down to who blinks first, I think Walmart will walk away, and I think investors might get their sense. They're known to be ruthless. They went to Russia and they scoured the whole country and said no thanks and left. They will walk, and in that regard, I think there's going to be a bit of a fight. But I think Walmart might just say, you know what, guys, this is a top multiple, this is a top price. It's a take it or leave it, and then it's up to the investors. I don't know that Walmart will necessarily blink at all.
Simon, UBS today cutting its rating for Anglo American from a buy to neutral, and interestingly here citing that it doesn't believe that the risk premium for Anglo American's African or South African assets is in the share price, given the uncertainty in this mining environment. Now, the share price shrugged off that news today. We're up 2/3% on Anglo American, closing today at 282.80 Rand. But just your thoughts in terms of where we're going from here.
As a quick point on the risk premium, I think that they're wrong. I think the risk premium has always been there with emerging markets. I don't think that's anything new. I think the nationalization debate, it's come to the fore, but really it's a debate that's been around, if anything, since 1956 in the Freedom Charter. I think that premium's always been there. I think the markets, perhaps, if we could say anything, got a little more mature about it. I think that the stocks, and we'd look at Anglo, we'd look at Billiton at the same time, for where we are right now in terms of commodity prices, in terms of world growth, and in terms of the Rand, I think relatively, probably fairly valued. I think their upside is going to be more moderate. We're not going to get the sort of growth we saw in 2009. I think the market's comfortable with that. 2009 was a special year. Certainly, as is always the case, when we look at Anglo and Billiton, we prefer Billiton on this diversification in terms of geography and in terms of product that it's mining.
The Financial 15 today gaining the biggest moves as a sector, 1 3/4% higher. Close to the top 40, we've got ABSA gaining 3.5% and Standard Bank 2 3/4% stronger, not to mention FirstRand gaining almost 2%, Investec almost 2% higher. What's behind the positive momentum in the banks today?
We've just seen buying in the banks, and it's been slow and gradual, but it's certainly been there. And I was quickly, before I came on air, I looked at the industrial, I looked at the financials, I looked at the resources. Industrials broke out of its trading range about 2 or so weeks ago. The financials today are sort of at that resistance, and if they can move up in the next couple of days, they will break out. Resources are still some way from the top of their trading range. So what we're seeing is we've been seeing industrials ran first, we've been seeing money coming into the banks, and largely it's been at the expense of resources. People are shunning the resource stocks. I think at a fair degree, that's with our rand at 7. It's not taking the knee-jerk response we've seen in the past, but it's certainly, some investors are saying, hang on, this rand at 7, that's not great for our resource stocks.
And then just looking at the international front, we've got global equities trending weaker, we've got gold pushing higher, much uncertainty in the global environment. Where do you think we're going from this level?
We've got uncertainty, I don't think, any more than we've had during the course of the year. In fact, if anything, that uncertainty levels may have dropped off a bit. I still think that in the immediate, we've seen a break on most of the international bourses, and the break was to the upside. It looks like we're going to be moving higher. I think pullbacks on the international space are opportunity for buying. And our local market, all-share index, still below 29,000, and it can go within the trading range. It could go as high as 29.5, maybe even 30,000. We haven't yet had that breakout, and in large part, that's the resources lagging. If the resources start to catch up, I think we could break as well. But in the international picture, certainly at the moment, the trend is moving upwards, and the pullbacks are opportunities for entering.